One of the things that's been always spoken about Karnataka is that it has always been this state where there have been migrants and people dominated from different parts of the country. Like there was this time where the Chalukyas were there, the Mauryans were there, and then maybe from the belts of the north to the south of Karnataka as well. There were different rulers from Vijayanagar Empire to the Nizam of Hyderabad and even the Maratha Empire. Now, from your point of view, what part of it is true? Have we always been this migrant-friendly state and city?
Well, let's start from the beginning. So before we get into Rajotsava Day, let's start with Indian Independence Day. Okay, so there are 7 different words here. Punjab, Sindh, Gujarat, Maratha, Dravida, Utkala, Vanga.
Vanga.
So
Vanga is Bengal.
Vanga is Bengal, Utkal is
Uttar Pradesh.
Odisha.
Odisha. Okay.
Utkal. Okay. Others are pretty obvious, right? Maratha. So now just think about this: a national anthem. Only 7 states are mentioned in it.
Right.
So, and this was composed by Rabindranath Tagore in 1911, just to give context. 1911, we were far away from independence. Tagore came up with this song, and that got adopted by the Indians began adopting that as their song, even though we were under the British. And in 1911, one man from today's Karnataka heard it and said, "What the hell? Where is Karnataka?" Right. So, in Tagore's conception of India, we were all clubbed into Dravida. Dravida is basically, right? And that troubled him. And he said, why is Karnataka or Kannada not part of the new country that we are fighting for independence for? And so he said, there's been a glorious history of Karnataka which we have forgotten. And so he actually wrote a book called Karnataka Gata Vaibhava, which is basically the past glories of Karnataka. Okay. His name was Allur Venkat Rao. And he began in 1912 or so something called the Ekikarana movement, which is let's try and get all the Kannada speaking parts of colonial India into one. So the idea that Kannada speakers should be together because we have had a past was something that were prompted actually by things like this, that when India was trying to figure itself out and Tagore was penning it, we just left out. Okay, so the spur, and to keep it very simple, 1911 or 12 idea began to unite the Kannada speaking provinces of colonial India. But we got independence, it didn't happen.
Okay.
Right? So we got independence, and to keep it very simple, there was a state called Mysore state under the Mysore Maharaja. So again, what I think people forget was when India was ruled by the British, actually they didn't control all of us. There were 550 plus independent kingdoms who signed agreements with the Brits. So the Brits actually controlled about barely 30% of India's territory directly, but they were in charge. The rest of India, you had Maharajas, 500 plus, one of whom was our Mysore Maharaja, the Wadiyars. And when they left, they said goodbye and left. We said goodbye to the last Brit at the gateway of India, and they left, and you do what you like. So the independence of India was not like India threw them out and became a country. India was not a country. It was 500 different people with bilateral agreements. So they said you do what you like. And so basically every Maharaja had to decide, should I join India? Should I join Pakistan? Or should I stay independent? 3 options. Now most people did the obvious thing. So Mysore was one of the first states to sign up for India. It is called the accession to India. Many kingdoms who were in what is today Pakistan signed up with Pakistan. Bhutan, interestingly, said we will stay independent. So Bhutan was one such kingdom as part of British India. Right. And there were a few others which didn't play ball basically. So Hyderabad said we will stay independent. So in the middle of India, you had one state which refused to join India and Pakistan. And Hyderabad was a big state. Yeah. Okay. So that's what happened. And there were some border states, and the whole problem of Jammu and Kashmir began then because that's the. So the genesis of many of India's problems began on Independence Day, and the British went away. And over the next 3 years, 1947 August, independence till 1950, was the world's largest country formation exercise, where famously Sardar Patel and others went to each Maharaja and basically said, sign up. Yeah. Simple deal. Like, let's unite. I mean, let's sign up. But they had to go personally to each Maharaja because Wadiyars have been ruling from the 1300s. So suddenly you say you're going to lose your status. Right, you're going to join a democracy. You're no longer king.
There's no monarchy.
So it needs a discussion. So that discussion happened over 3 years. Mysore signed up all these countries. Hyderabad did not. So finally, we had the Constitution of India, Republic Day, Jan 26, 1950, when India got formed as a republic. But there was still some, unfinished business or some. So, and in that decision, when India was formed in 1950, the states in the south of India were Madras state. Basically all of South India, and within Madras state you had Mysore, which remained The kingdom of Mysore became the state of Mysore.
State of Mysore.
Similarly, you had Travancore and Cochin were separate kingdoms, and you had Coorg. So the curious thing was that you had, if you see the map of India in 1950, in fact, you should show it. It's fascinating. There are very few states. There is Madras, there is Bombay, there is Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, few states. Okay, and so that's the sort of how India became independent. Now that the British were gone, we wanted our own identity. So not just Karnataka. A lot of language speakers said, "Where is our state?" And so agitations began, and famously, so when I travel to the north, they say you're a Madrasi.
Yeah, I've been hearing this for a while. I can imagine how long you've been hearing this.
And you know what? They're right. Because everything south of India was technically Madras state. So actually, they're not wrong. In their thinking, Madras was south.
It was under the Madras presidency back then. Is that why you're saying?
Yeah. And within that, there was a small Mysore. That's a technicality. So in some sense, I know Madrasi is a pejorative term, and but the truth is Madrasi was what everything. And you'll be surprised. Can you guess? So Madras state. Can you guess how far north it went on the east? It crept up the coast. It went till Visakhapatnam. So Visakhapatnam was part of Madras.
Okay.
State. So Bangalore was part of Madras.
Yeah.
Visakhapatnam was part of Madras. Kanyakumari part of Madras. Just think about it. And in the middle of this huge expanse, you have one Mysore, one Coorg, one Kerala, basically, right? So if you are sitting in Delhi and you say Odisha is Madras. So we are from way south of Odisha, right? So it's important to understand that India got independence. We had these big, everything south of the Vindhyas was correct to say Madras. It's all started with the Andhras. The Andhras were very upset that they are under Madras state. Mm-hmm. So Madras state contained entire Andhra Pradesh, entire Tamil Nadu, parts of what is Karnataka, parts of Kerala. Everything was Madras state, right? But for those of you who
behind the camera.
So many of the roots of our language issues are that in the south of India, Madras was the boss and Tamil was the language of the boss. I mean, that's how it was, right? So administratively, the Tamil speaking administration controlled South India.
Right.
And if you were the Mysore Maharaja, you had to basically kowtow out to the British in Madras, right? So to some extent, the supremacy of the Tamil language in South India is also because of administrative reasons.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not recent, it dates back.
Yeah, it dates back. That's how it is. So that's one thing. So the Andhras were unhappy that they were entirely within Madras state. So they wanted their own state. So there is a very famous personality called Potti Sri Ramulu who went on a hunger strike in 1950. Said, we want our own state for the Telugu speaking people. Mm-hmm. And the Telugu speaking people were divided between Hyderabad, which is Nizam's Hyderabad, big state, and Madras. Half of them were in Nizam's Hyderabad, half were in some proportion. So he went on strike and Nehru was the prime minister. And the incredible thing was he went on a hunger strike. Generally when people go on a hunger strike, they call it off at the last minute. He did not call it off, he died.
Oh.
So it's one of the rare situations where a hunger strike resulted in him dying. When he died, there was riots and chaos across what is today Andhra. And within 2 days, Nehru said, yes, there will be a separate state called Andhra Pradesh. So the decision to start partitioning Indian states happened largely because of him.
Okay.
So 1953, Andhra got carved out of Madras state.
Out of Madras.
So Madras was Visakhapatnam till Kanyakumari. So they carved it out. So Andhra got carved out in 1953. And then that whole movement began. That each state said, we also want our own state. So they set up something called the States Reorganization Commission. They said, let's have a State Reorganization Commission. The decision was taken to reorganize the country by language. So it was a big decision. So in 1956, so now somebody had to draw the lines. So when India and Pakistan were partitioned, there was this bureaucrat called Cyril Radcliffe who was basically given a map and said, draw a line. In fact, most of the world's problems today are because someone drew a line. Israel, Palestine, someone who was not even there. Some Brit admin guy, right? Administrative. Now the funny part is we don't call it, but the partition of India within, I call it the partition of independent India into states. We don't use that word, but it was that. It was partitioning Madras, partitioning Bombay. So that began, and in that partitioning, Kannada speaking peoples have been agitating for now from 1911 till 1950. So 40 years there's been a Ekikarana, it's called the Ekikarana unification movement, which, as I told you, the man who heard Jana Gana Mana and got upset, he began that. And after that, the main people who pushed it were the poets, the literateurs, the writers. So interestingly, the movement for Ekikarana actually was very much an intellectual literateurs movement, where they, so that it finally culminated, a decision was taken, some lines were drawn, we'll discuss where the lines were drawn, what was left in Karnataka, what went to Tamil Nadu, but we took a bit of Bombay, we took a bit of Hyderabad, we took a bit of Tamil Nadu, and there were some kingdoms like, Mudhol and Savanur and Sandur, they were independent kingdoms. We just put them all in and we made things thing, and that became Mysore state. So in 1956, the old Mysore kingdom of Vodiyars, to that other Kannada speaking areas added approximately the same size. So South Karnataka is Mysore. If you follow politics, they'll say old Mysore region. That means old Mysore means Bangalore, Mysore, Chamarajanagar till about Shimoga. And North Karnataka, Kalyana Karnataka was all part of Hyderabad. So Hyderabad